Jefferson.
I'm Izzy. And I'm Agatha.
And we're the directors of speakers and concerts for CEC, and this is the artist Declassified Guide to the Music Industry.
So we're going to be doing 1 hour of conversation and then 15 minutes Q&A right after of all music industry things.
We have a microphone right up here for when the Q&A starts, so you can just go up and line up with a question, and the best question gets a free copy of Professor Leaf's book about the Beach Boys, so good incentive. And for now, let's just welcome our gracious host, David Leaf.
As you heard, tonight is an event about an artist declassified guide to the music industry, and our panel is going to declassify it for you. I've been teaching here at the Herb Alpert School of Music in our music industry program for 12 years, and I've spent my life and career in the industry. Tonight, we want to give you some very special insights into what it takes and what it means to have a career in music. To do that, the CEC have brought together a terrific panel who will share their ideas and experiences with you. First, we're going to start on the record company side. We have the vice president of Steve Aoki's Dim Mak Records. He's been in the business for two decades, working as a producer, a songwriter, a manager, an event promoter, a consultant, and an A&R. As somebody who is regularly featured at major industry events like NAMM, he will have a lot to tell us about every aspect of the music world. Please welcome Lorne Padman. I often tell my students that when you go to a concert and you see 4 or 5 or 6 people on stage, it probably took 100 or more people to get them there. And what that means is that well over 90% of the jobs in the music industry are behind the scenes and available to all of us, people who have a passion for music and the willingness to kind of work tirelessly on behalf of artists. Our next panelist can certainly address what that actually means. She began her career just a few years ago at WME and has quickly moved up the ladder. At only 27, she's an agent just down Westwood Boulevard at the Wasserman Media Group, where she works in the live side of the business with such artists as the 2022 Grammy Award winners Baby Keem and SZA. She's also part of the team that just announced Coast Contra's first ever headlining tour. Here is Lauren Marker. Did I get that right, Lauren? Now to our artists. The journey these twin sisters have taken is a perfect example of how to turn your passion for music into a career. They are everywhere. They've launched an eyewear company, they're deep in the world of dance music, and they can tell us what it takes for Afro-Latino women to be successful DJs and producers. Say hello to Coco and Breezy. Our final panelist didn't have to travel too far to get here because she's a student at UCLA majoring in music theater. Somehow this singer-songwriter has also found time to explode on the web, where she has 3 million followers, 270 million views, and over 27 million streams. And when you hear the story of where she made her first recording, you'll immediately understand that there are no barriers of entry to a career in music. One review said, and I'm quoting, "She is a musical force to be reckoned with." RCA Records agrees, and her next single, Angry, drops next week. You may have seen her here in the hallways, but tonight she's earned a place on our stage. Here is Parovi. So I'm coming to sit with everybody. Were the intros okay?
Solid.
Didn't get anybody wrong? Good. So I want to start, Lauren, with you because you are the senior member of our panel tonight. How did you start out? How did you get into the business? What's your origin story, so to speak?
it's a very random one. I went to a U2 concert, really loved it, couldn't share it on video because it was before the internet, sadly. It was released as a DVD the following year. I was studying at UWA engineering, and I said to everybody, you've got to come over to my house and watch this. It's going to be phenomenal. And I had 150 people by the end of the week who wanted to come. My mum was like, hell no, that's not happening. And I rented a hall, 12 foot by 9 foot projector screen, sold tickets and decked the place out, and it was really awesome. Such a huge night, but I purposely didn't pay the rental place $300 short. I was $300 short on a, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 hire. And I said, I can pay you in 2 weeks, or I could work it back. And they said, okay, well, you can start by packing away this stage, which took me about a day. And then I kept working there, but after, I would go back after hours, and they had a lighting control panel running a bunch of computer lights, and I got them doing some really cool things to music. They hired those to a nightclub, and then I became the operator at $20 an hour and a free drink card and entry for all my friends. Like, it was awesome.
Oh, you were lit.
That was, yeah, my friends thought I was on fire, you know. And I was next to a DJ who brought in a second set of headphones, and he basically kind of like roughly taught me how to mix. And then one night he was absolutely busting to use the bathroom, and he pulled up a bunch of records and he says, here, mix these, I've got to go. And the place was like fire marshal unsafe, and he was gone for 15 minutes, and I very nervously put them together. And he came back and said, you're my new piss break DJ. And I was like, thanks very much.
Do you have that on your resume?
No, as it turns out, I don't. But it was great because I started to DJ a lot with him as his break guy, and then some sets here and there. He died in 1999, November 27, and his family gave me his records and this ring. And I always wear it as a reminder of how I got into the industry of sorts, and I almost overnight became a DJ playing all of these big shows and with all of the records, and kind of continued that way whilst I was doing other things.
Amazing.
Along the way.
What other than being the piss break DJ, what
Bathroom break beat DJ,
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
guess. That's probably what I should call it.
But what was the next big break that took you from being a DJ into this much bigger world where you are now?
Yeah, okay. So I was in Perth, Western Australia, and through a friend, she was working at a radio station, the biggest radio station, and they asked me to come in and mix 3 records in the top 30 live, and I did that on vinyl, and the program director was very nervous about the whole thing. And it was so successful that they asked me to keep coming back, and then eventually they said, oh, we're going to give you a microphone, you can announce the records. And then eventually it was, tell us what's going on in the dance music scene, and then eventually it became a little segment in the show. And I was playing a record that was sent to me from a DJ in Melbourne, and then on my 28th birthday, I was trying to figure out what to do with my life exactly, and a friend of mine said, why don't you go to Melbourne and give it a shot for a couple of years, and if it doesn't work, take your bat and your ball and your degrees and go back to Perth and get your white picket fence, 2.6 kids, all that. And I didn't. I went to Melbourne, and I was asked if, by that DJ, I said, I'd like to meet you now. And he said, do you remember that record I sent you and you played on radio? And I said, yeah, of course. He said, my record label in Melbourne are putting that out now, and they probably don't know what they're doing in Western Australia. Is there anything you can do? And relationships, I was like, sure, I've got the 2 radio stations, a street press and a newspaper, and it was charting, reviewed, got playlisted. And the record label called me and said, hey, could you come in for a meeting, and would you like to do that for the rest of the country? So I said, okay, I guess. And initially I said no, but my friend said, if you want to pursue DJing, you should be working at a record label. So ultimately I was doing everything hoping that it was going to help my DJing career. And that was my break, because once I was in the room, again, just like I was the first time where I said, oh, let me program the computer lights, I eventually was in the room, and then I'd say, oh, let me re-edit that for you and make a shorter version. that PR thing, let me reword it for you, and that graphic looks a bit weird, let me pull down my Photoshop skills. And so I just kept on trying to add value wherever I could. And ultimately, I ran the label for 5 years. I was there for 9 years, ran it for 5. We famously discovered Avicii. We got his career going. Dirty South. We had a lot of top 10s with really big local acts in Australia, and then I got a call from Steve Aoki asking me to come out and help run Dim Mak Records, and that was in 2013, and that was off the back of me managing this guy called Angga Dimas from Indonesia, who was making unbelievable music, and Steve was doing collabs with him, so that's how we met. And I came out here and stumbled into the Chainsmokers and got their career going, and I thought, oh, it's super easy, and I haven't done anything like that since.
That's a great story. Lorne, yours is a little bit shorter, I think. So tell
I
us.
am really sorry. I am really sorry.
No.
It's inspiring. I'm inspired.
I'm inspired too.
It wasn't a criticism, it was just an observation. Tell us where your passion for music came from and how you got into a very different aspect of the industry.
Is my mic on? Yes. Is it? Yeah. Okay. I am from the Coachella Valley area. My family is in the radio business, so I was exposed to a lot of different genres from a super young age, from like old school R&B and hip hop to jazz to country to rock to alternative, and I just like would always be listening to music in my bedroom all the time. I had the coolest parents in the world. They took me to Coachella. My first one was, I was 10 years old. And yeah, and I remember like being there with my parents, and it was the greatest experience of all time. And I remember my second Coachella when I was 12. This sounds so ridiculous. I looked at my parents and I was like, I'm gonna be the reason that, I'm gonna help be the reason that these fans are getting to see their favorite artists. And I didn't know what that was at the time. Like I didn't know that that's part of it could be being an agent. So it's really cool to like see that all come full circle for me. So that's kind of like where my inspiration came from. And then all my entire life, I was playing competitive tennis. I played for the University of Arizona, and then I played professionally for a year after graduating before I started working in music. And during my college years, I also was trying to do internships in music. So I had one with my family's radio business, and I was like the assistant to the programming director for the R&B and hip hop station. So that was really cool because I got to learn a lot about how songs were added to the radio station and have input on how that was done and get to talk to record labels and all that good stuff. And then my second one was at Full Stop Management, which is what it's called now. It used to be Azoff Music Management, and I got to work on the management side with Gwen Stefani, so that was also an incredible moment for me too, yeah. And that's just, yeah, my story.
That's pretty amazing. How did you end up at William Morris and Wasserman? Was there some, you know, we're all in life, we're all waiting for somebody to like tap us on the shoulder with a magic wand and say, follow me, like the Wizard of Oz. And that's not the way it happens. You had when we were talking beforehand, you were talking about grades and
oh yes. I wasn't going to share this piece of information, but he said that I should. I had a motto in college: it's not the grades you make, it's the hands you shake. And I really, really took that seriously, and I made a huge effort to create a lot of different relationships down the road. Whether it was tennis or college, I really just put a lot of effort into staying in touch with people. And when I got really burnt out on tour while I was playing tennis, I went home and I was applying everywhere, whether it was like Wasserman or WME or Paradigm. I just really, really wanted to get a interview, and I wasn't really getting a call back. And one day I was helping out at the radio stations, and this woman walks in And she was there to talk on the country radio station to talk about the Stagecoach lineup. And she went and revealed the lineup, and then afterwards I was like, "What's your name? Would you get lunch with me?" And she was like, "Okay, sure, I'll get lunch with you before I head back to LA." And which is amazing that she did that. I ended up finding out she was Paul T's right hand, who's the founder of Coachella, and then she's also the curator for the entire Stagecoach lineup. We ended up having a 3-hour-long lunch conversation, and at the end of it, she was like, "I got my start at this place called William Morris. They're always looking for new female talent. Can I just put your resume in? Like, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead. That's my dream." And she put my resume in that night. They gave me a call that same night asking if I would come in and interview. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, when?" And they go, "Tomorrow." And so I get in my car that night, and I have a 10 a.m. interview on Friday. And I thought I did really, really well. And then I'm driving home back to the desert, and I get a call from them that they wanted to offer me the job in the mailroom, the infamous mailroom. And I was like, "How long do I have to think about it?" And they were like, 2 hours. And so I called them back 2 hours later. I'm like, "I'll take the job." And then I'm like, "When do you want me to start?" "Monday." It's Friday. And so I packed up everything, moved to Los Angeles, and that's kind of how I got my start at William Morris.
That's awesome.
That is a great story, yeah.
The moral of the story is to get out of your comfort zone, and if you're in the right place at the right time, ask somebody out to lunch. You never know what's going to happen.
Relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships are extremely important. Preparation and opportunity. When they intersect, that's when great things happen. I'm going to turn to the twins on my left. Tell us about when you guys, knew that music was going to be your life.
So when we were younger, we used to be dancers. We actually used to backup dance for artists, like local artists in Minnesota. And we would perform at every talent show. And in order for us to have a cool song for the talent show, we didn't know a producer or a DJ while in middle school, so we'd make our own mixes. And what we would do is we would record, we couldn't afford to get the CDs, so we would record the song on a tape. Y'all are too young to know this, but we would listen to the radio, we'd have a tape, you can Google this later, and we would record it, and then we would rewind it a little bit, and then record the next song, or record like a quick little vocal, and then, so we were making our own little mixes, via radio and cassette tape. And then fast forward, we grew up with our mom is Puerto Rican, music is everyone can sing, everyone plays an instrument. And so our love for dance is what got us to understand music, right? Because when you're a DJ or a producer, you understand what people how they want to groove to it. And so the way we actually started DJing was, we always knew we wanted to be DJs. We said that our names were going to be the Double Mix Twins. But that was some middle school shit.
Yeah.
The Double Mix Twins.
I'll finish the story now. And so what happened was, so we've dreamed to DJ since we were kids, but when we were 19, we started our eyewear company. And back in the day, we started off on MySpace, because we grew up in Minnesota where it was not eclectic, it was very conservative, and our parents allowed us to express ourselves. And so what came with that was being bullied. And so we found our love, and we kind of back in the day when MySpace was popular, we gained this fan base, and we were making these glasses, and people asked where they can buy them from. And so we quit our jobs, we sold our car, and then we moved to New York with less than $1,000 to start our eyewear company. And within the first 3 months, Lady Gaga was wearing them, Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, all these music artists. And so for us, I think that at the time, being multifaceted, you have to kind of pick and choose which one you want to spend your time on. So there's years that we spent our time on growing our eyewear company. And then when we knew that it was time for us to tap into music, and I'm all about signs in life, we got this random email. Mind you, there was nowhere on the internet that said that we had a passion of curiosity of wanting to DJ or get into music.
And this is 9 years ago.
Yeah, this is 9 years ago, but we got an email and someone was like, "I want to book Coco Breezy to DJ." And there was nowhere, we didn't know how to DJ yet. But someone,
and I said the show was in tomorrow.
And so for me, I believe in I've been intuitively guided, and we all when you walk through life with your heart and your soul, you know when it's that time. And so we got that email. We hit up our homegirl, who's a DJ. I was like, hey, girl, can you teach us how to DJ? We got booked. And she was like, when is it?
And guess how much we got booked for our first gig? Like $1,500. Period. Because I knew my worth.
I knew how to negotiate. And so I was like, I don't know how to DJ, but I know my worth. And so, but the thing is, and so what I did though, is that our homegirl taught us, and the way that she taught us, she like showed us a little bit of basics, but she was like, I don't want to teach you too much because I want you to learn your own style. And so I was like, I'll give you half of our rate. And so she came, and I was like, we'll pay you to like teach us and to critique us. And so our first show, it was probably pots and pans, but we had it jumping. But we had the confidence.
But then after that show, we started just getting booked, but then we brought another DJ on with us because we learned outside. Like we learned playing in front of people. So we brought a DJ with us, I think for the first like 10 or 15 shows, and we split it in thirds, and we were like, if anything malfunctions, if we mess up, give us feedback, and that's what we did. And then our homie worked at Scratch Academy, so every day when they closed, we go into Scratch Academy and practice on the turntables, the CDJs, the controllers, set up, break down. Like we learned how to do all that stuff. And it's been history ever since. I would say that we're starting to finally like peak in our career this year.
And we, thank you. We put out our first song during the pandemic. Yeah. And we produced as well. And so for years we were trying to find our sound, and we put out our first song during the pandemic, and ever since then it's been great feedback, and so yeah, we're super excited.
So y'all, don't be afraid if you sing, if you DJ. Like bedroom DJs are a real thing, but you have to go outside and put yourself in that vulnerable place. The first festival we played, we had one person in the audience, but if you see the photo, you would have thought that like it was crowded.
But that's what got us signed to WME.
But let me tell you, that's what got us signed to WME. We did our first festival, and who was in the back? The backstage was all the agents, all the talent bookers,
all the press,
and they're all in the audience. Nobody, but we performed for all those people in the
back.
Because
I knew that people were curious about us. They were trying to figure it out, and so we're gonna give them something to figure it out. And we performed like there was 1 million people in the crowd.
Yeah, we got an agent. We got people that booked us for the next festival.
We did Coachella. We did EDC. We did Lightning in the Bottle. All the biggest festivals.
That was from that one show.
Wow. Yeah.
I got to ask you a question. What happened long before the eyewear company that gave you the confidence that you could do anything? Where did that come from?
Our parents.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that our parents, ever since we were younger, we knew that we were creative kids. And since I was able to even just be conscious when I came out the womb, I knew that I was going to do something. No, for real. I spiritually knew I was going to do something to change the world, or I was going to do something. And our mom and dad, our dad grew up during segregation. Our mom grew up in a very strict household, and so they broke the generational curses while raising us. They did not put their traumas onto us, and they allowed Coco and I to be individualists. And that's a privilege, because I know that there are a lot of creative kids who their parents kind of push them to live the life that they want, but we didn't go to college. We started our company right after high school. We've been financially on our own since we were 15. We had to figure it out. And even though they couldn't support us financially, we had so much love in our household, and that's what gave us the confidence to do whatever the fuck we want. Literally gave us the confidence, and I'm forever grateful for that.
That's why you guys, always be you. Don't ever change yourself for anyone else. And if someone else feels comfortable or feels uncomfortable from your appearance or uncomfortable from who you are, that's their own insecurity. It has nothing to do with you. So keep that in your mind every single day.
And also to be patient with your parents, because I think that our parents are only, no, I'm serious, our parents are only doing the best that they know. And so even if you think that they don't support you, don't allow that to stop you, because that's why you have community with friends. And just give them that grace that they have traumas that has nothing to do with you, and they're really just trying to make sure you're good from their trauma, but don't let that stop you from really going for your dreams.
That's great. The thing that I talk about in my classes a lot is that the fact that you got into UCLA, you're already extraordinary. So the question becomes, how much are you determined to pursue your dream? That's really what it comes down to. How hard are you willing to work to make great things happen? And these two young women obviously are tireless in every which way. Now, Parovi, you don't quite have the length of a career as these folks do, but coincidentally, your career and Lorne's actually have a similar beginning. So talk about where you recorded your first song.
Okay. Well, I recorded my very first cover song is what I started releasing. I started doing covers. It was in my childhood bedroom during quarantine with a $15 Amazon mic and GarageBand. And my friend Xander in the back over there played piano, sent me the track. I sang over it in GarageBand. A random producer on Instagram DM'd me, and I sent him the files and uploaded it, and the next thing I know, I'm on this stage. And yeah.
Now,
You're being shy. You're being humble. Give us the details.
Okay. Well, if we want to start at the beginning. I was born on a cold winter night. No, it was April. No, but I've been singing since age 3. I was trained in classical Indian voice, dance, acting, all those types of backgrounds. I didn't really sing in English until middle school when I joined choir, and my teacher was very mad that I dropped saxophone, but choir is now my career. So
you can't sing and play sax at the same time.
I know, it sucks. We'll invent it one day. But yeah, so I started doing choir and theater in high school and middle school, and fell in love with musical theater. Decided to major in it at college. I actually also applied for music industry because I also wanted to be like an agent or manager or something, but didn't go that way. And
now you're a superstar.
No, stop it. Oh my God. So yeah, now I'm at UCLA, freshman year, cut short by COVID, and I went home to Virginia instead of LA, and really hated that. So I decided to start posting every day, started making content every day, just threw myself completely into something that was not being in Virginia. And so once I started posting videos consistently, people started to listen. And then it kind of, one of the first moments that I remember was when I woke up to like a crap ton of views on this cover of Electric Love, which is the first cover that I released. And I was, messing around in GarageBand, teaching myself through YouTube how to, turn up the volume. And I recorded it, did the whole shebang, put it online, and then it kind of went viral again. And then sooner or later, every kind of song that seemed to resonate with people online, I started to record and then put it online with some of my friends, like editing stuff and all that type of stuff. It was a very community-based movement. And then eventually there was a song called Cloud 9 by Beach Bunny that kind of blew up in March of 2021. And that song really just kind of made everything happen. And then ended the month being signed to RCA, and then have been signed ever since, making music. Song is releasing on Friday, and yeah, doing the thing.
When did you make the transition from singing other people's songs to creating your own, to writing your own songs? And how difficult was that?
Very. I never really songwrote before I signed. So most people start out songwriting as a therapy or just like something that they do for themselves, but I really never got that experience. From the get-go, I was kind of like, how do I make money off of this? And it was, I kind of struggled with that creative aspect of the process a lot. And even now, like I'm still trying to get out of that headspace of like marketability, which is, I feel like the record label's dream because I'm constantly thinking about marketability when I'm writing, but trying to get back to that very like centered of why am I writing this? Is this what I want to say? How does this represent me? How does this help the world? That type of stuff. And like, yeah, returning to those core questions when I'm writing has really helped me become more confident. And I'm still working on self-confidence. I'm going to be completely transparent. I do not always feel comfortable in the songwriting room. I feel uneducated. I feel lesser than a lot of the times, especially with a record label. You get put in a lot of big rooms with really big, important people who wrote your favorite. I was in a session the other day with the person who wrote the entire Camp Rock soundtrack, and I was intimidated as hell. And yeah, like things like that will happen. And you just walk in and you're like, what am I doing here? And then, but like the thing is, exactly what you guys were talking about, right place, right time, preparation, and opportunity. That's what it is. You can't let self-doubt, cloud that stuff because you're there for a reason. And even if it is an accident, hey, it's a happy accident. Like, show up for yourself. But yeah, long-winded answer to your question. Sorry.
No, I want long answers. That's how you're gonna reveal yourself. That's how each of you are revealing yourself. Lorne, you mentioned that you worked at Frontline.
Full stop.
That was Irving Azoff's company. Was there somebody there like Susan Markheim who was a particular mentor? Because Irving Azoff is now, we're talking about well over a half century of doing it, and still is one of the most important and powerful people in the industry. What did you learn being around that universe?
Yeah, so I worked for Gwen's day-to-day, or I think she's her full-time manager now. Her name's Tina Kennedy, and she was an amazing mentor during my internship at Azoff. I learned that no task is too small or too big. So offering to do anything and just raising your hand if like somebody else needs help or if somebody else is struggling, if people need to get coffee, like I just had an open mind and I was down to do anything because I just wanted to be a sponge and learn as much as I can. Like, oh, Gwen needs her record signed. I was like, oh, I'll drive to her house and have her sign the records. Like, you know, just little things like that where I just tried to pick up as much as I can within a short time. And then Tina's the one actually who, after the internship, I was like, you know, I really liked management. I want to really, you know, learn as much as I can about the music business. What do you recommend me doing next? And she was like, if you really want to learn about the music business, try to get a job in the mailroom at one of the top talent agencies. It's basically like getting your master's in the music business. And she's like, if you can last there for 2 years, anyone will hire you outside. Like you can go into any sort of space in the music business. And I ended up just loving it and sticking with it. But yeah.
It's a great answer. It's really important. One of the things you said that jumped out was the willingness to do anything. In our business, doing your job perfectly is average. That's what's expected. So how do you stand out? So I'll say, you know, it's 9 o'clock Friday night, and the boss says, who can be here tomorrow morning at 8? It's like, I can. Did you want me to bring coffee and donuts? I mean, it's something as straightforward as that. That you say, wait a second, I'm a college graduate. Why am I bringing coffee and donuts? Well, that attitude is not going to get you anywhere.
It's the funny thing is though, like if you bring the coffee and donuts, sometimes you get a seat in the room. And so like that happened to me one time. I'm like, oh, I'll grab bagels for you guys. And they ended up, hey, do you want to sit in on this meeting? You know, so I'm going to change it from
the
bagels to...
You work for a legend, Steve. What have you... Now, you had a solid career before you got there. What have you learned working there that has raised your game way up?
Steve has a philosophy called by any means necessary, and I love that because that's kind of how I feel like I've always been to some degree, but having someone else around to be like a mentor, even if it's not directly, but the idea of being able to look at him for inspiration. Like I literally, after Avicii passed away, he was a friend of mine, it was tough. I pulled Steve aside multiple times and I said, I just want to ask you this really important question. How are you, actually? And he took a moment to think, and he's like, I'm really great. I just love this. And I said, I think that everyone around you has an interest in keeping you on the road and keeping you busy because they're all getting a percentage. But are you cool with that? Because otherwise, I don't want you to be like the guinea pig, the
cash cow.
Yeah, the cash cow, the Britney Spears of sorts, you know. And he said, no, I'm the one who's driving everybody else to keep up with me. So he's just got this absolutely insatiable appetite for a work ethic, which I really love. And when I was 22, I had an anxiety attack, like a panic attack, where I was hyperventilating and I was driving on the freeway in my 66 Mustang. Great cars, I have to tell you. I imported it, and I blanked out. I had no vision for about 8 seconds, and I was, 50, 60 mile an hour. And because I was hyperventilating, it was going crazy because I'd been pushing myself so hard. So I have something that I've learned from that, which might be helpful, but you need to listen to the whole thing. you can't cancel me after the first thing I say, because it's a two-part thing. I think you should work as hard as you possibly can, because when you do that, there's a really great reward of feeling fulfilled, and chasing fulfillment is a really, really important thing. However, you shouldn't stay at that level the entire time, because then you'll get this thing basically called anxiety poisoning of sorts, which comes across in ulcers, and it comes across in stress, and it comes across in cancers, it comes across in a lot of things. So push yourself as hard as you can, and then relax and take some time, and then come back and keep ebbing, but knowing where your limit is. That'd be the same in professional tennis. You know, like trying to play at the highest level the entire time, there needs to be a moment where you actually have a beach day. So I think in Australia we have a saying which is work hard, play hard. And in America I feel like the saying is work hard, work harder. And I think a little bit of balance is really the way to go.
Thank you, that's great. Ladies, was there somebody, is ladies an okay term?
Yeah, for us.
For us, yeah.
Oh, okay. Was there somebody who kind of changed your life, besides the DJ who kind of helped you along? Is there somebody who pushed your career to a new level?
I feel like our manager, I love him so much.
Yeah,
I love
Johnny.
him. Johnny Maroney's his name, from Mood Swing. I fucking love him because we're like family, and he pushed us. Like our first like 20, 30 shows, he never told us we did a good job. He never hyped us up. It was always like, what can we do better? Because we obviously know we're doing a good job, but we don't need to hear that we're doing a good job all the time. He would critique us. And something else that I really loved about him, as well as even when we started putting music out, and when we first started DJing, we got kind of pigeonholed because we were black women into like hip hop and R&B, and it took us a while to actually get accepted in like the electronic and dance music space. And so like the first couple years, when our promo photos, he had us like not dress fashionable because he wanted people to like just take us seriously and like just like us for our music. And so we just had like white t-shirts on.
And sunglasses.
And sunglasses is very basic because like he just wanted people to accept us, and he knew that that's the game we had to play. Because a lot of times people were so confused. We were fashionable. We had an eyewear company.
They're like, do they actually DJ?
They didn't get it.
We showed up to a show once, or to an event, and the CDJs weren't plugged in. He had an aux cord, and the sound person was like, I didn't know they actually for real DJ. And I was like, what? Wow. You really thought we were just about to plug into this? This is like 7 years ago. Wow. But I'm like, you really thought we were going to plug into the aux cord? He's like, I didn't see anything online that said you guys DJ'd.
But I think that the importance is that I am grateful because it's hard to find a manager that you really have that chemistry with. And he pushes us, but not to a point. We're also aligned when it comes to balance as well. And so like we work hard, but we also like balance.
Yeah, we make realistic deadlines.
Like super realistic deadlines. So I am grateful that even though he pushes us, he also respects our time. Like there's a time where our father passed away, and we got one of the biggest money opportunities that came in, and he was like, I don't think we should do it because you guys need to take time out to grieve. And I was like, I fuck with you for that. Because it was one of the biggest checks we could have gotten, and he was like, we don't need to do that. And for me right there, I need to tell him that, but that really meant the world for me because a lot of times people who've seen even like Avicii, people pushed him so hard for the money. And when he actually told us not to, and me and Coco were trying to, no, we can do it, because I'm looking at the money. But for him, he was like, you guys need to just take as much time as you want. And so when you're thinking about like building a team, it's really about like, it has to feel like family. At least for me, it feels like family. Someone who pushes you, and also not being afraid to don't have an ego, because if someone is pushing you and they're giving you like critique and feedback, they're not trying to get on you. They're trying to make you greater and better. Even though it hurts and it's uncomfortable and it's annoying sometimes, he's like, I'm not trying to be annoying, but I'm like, no, tell us. Like I want to hear all the feedback. I don't need to hear that I'm great all the time. We need to be greater and be better, because our goal is to be legends. And so in order to do that, you have to like be amazing and be great and like be open to the feedback.
That's great. I mean, have you ever have either of you ever heard of a manager turning down a gig like that? I mean, that's pretty remarkable
I've
to
seen the opposite version of it with Avicii pushing,
Yeah.
when he didn't want to be pushed. So I saw that a lot. Infrequently do you ever see a manager turning down a gig unless it's not good for the brand or something. But if there's a big check, it's so hard to know what a person would do.
Yeah, we got lucky with Johnny.
Yeah.
Even he'll be like, you guys have to do this mix. And we're like, we just got off the road. We're exhausted. We need to meditate. He's like, all right, y'all take those 3 days to meditate and do what you got to do. Then we get back on it.
Because my thing is, I'm all about, like, if I'm feeling empty, the work that I deliver is going to be empty.
Yeah.
But if my heart is full and I'm feeling grounded, I'm actually going to work harder in a shorter period of time. And I believe that when you're tired, sometimes, like, you want to keep pushing yourself, but you won't deliver the results that you want. But if you take that time out, we're the queen of a power nap. I love a power nap. I'll take a nap, and I will deliver in something that might have taken me 3 hours, but only take me 30 minutes if I, like, balance and rest my body.
Great. Parovi, listening to all of this, you're just really beginning your career. You have people you can trust, or are you going to be trusting your instincts at this point?
A little bit of both. It's the music industry. Like there's not. It's just like any other business, any other industry, any other group. Like there's not always going to be the best people who are showing up at your doorstep, but I think it's all about knowing that you have a good head on your shoulders. You know who you are. You know who you want to be. You know that you want to surround yourself with people who believe in that, who believe in you. And exactly what you were saying earlier about being yourself, that's like the truest way to finding who's right for you, who will naturally gravitate for you, who will fit with you, is if you are like being yourself to a T. I mean, like as much as you can be, because that's, if you're looking for an edge in the industry, that's your edge, is being completely you. It's being completely truthful to every single part of you. And that's what's gonna make your instincts stronger and tighter. And you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna trust the wrong people. You're gonna do all of those things. It's kind of unavoidable, honestly, if you want to do what you want to do. But it depends on how fast you bounce back, how much you learn from that experience, and how much you take of it and put it towards what you're going to do in the future.
Can I say one piece of advice as well, especially as a young artist? Never be afraid to ask questions, because like as an artist, and you have all these people, we have agents, management talking for us. Always, if there's a word that you don't understand, always ask what it means, because you never, even though they're talking for you, you want to make sure you understand everything. Look at every statement. Coco and I don't miss a fucking beat. Like sometimes we gotta correct.
I'm looking at my statements like this. You know, like you want to look at your statements, you want to look at the emails, you want to make sure the contracts, if you don't understand it, ask questions. Seriously.
Can I jump in on that just real quickly? And I would say something that I learned some time ago, which is you can ask any question you can possibly think of so long as you can figure out how to ask it politely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that counts for anything. And if you can't figure out a way of politely asking the question, well, I guess that one's off limits. But if you can be audacious enough to come up with a question at the very beginning instead of at the end and politely ask it, you can kind of get away with asking things that you wouldn't otherwise would be too scared to ask.
I'm going to ask everybody the same question. We have a room full of people who are 19, 20, 21 who want to get into the music industry. What should they be doing now? What's the thing that they should be doing at this moment in time? What's the best way to get into the industry while they're still here?
Oh, work experience. In Australia, it's called work experience. Over here, it's called internships. Anything which allows you to differentiate yourself when you finished your schooling, to be able to come to someone like me, anybody who's an employer, and say, hey, I've just finished college. And all that tells me, and I've studied for 3 degrees, all that tells me is that you can think sequentially, you can manage your own time. That's what it tells me. That's instantly off the bat. I'm like, oh, you got a degree? Great. So you're a self-starter. I don't have to look over your work constantly. You're going to be great. But it doesn't really tell me who you are. It doesn't tell me what else you're interested in. It doesn't really give you... I don't ask about your grades. I don't think I was ever asked about any of my grades, weirdly. I think that what you need to do is try the best you can to say, I did this, and I did this extra thing, and I did this extra thing, and I was working on events. I interned for a record label. I helped run a show. Anything that differentiates you that I can look at and try to figure out how you could add value to my business, because you can just instantly pick it up and go with it because you kind of know what you're doing and I don't have to explain it all, is what I think an employer will like. So the best thing you can do is to try to do extra things that aren't just your degree, if that makes sense.
Great. Lauren?
This is going to sound very simple, but the internet is a big deal because I feel like, especially in the space that I work in, accessibility is a huge problem in the music business right now. And if you don't have connections, it's really, really hard to get your foot in the door. So I know it seems hard, but I stalked the shit out of everybody, and I emailed random people, I DM'd people. I'm like, can you get on the phone? Can we just do a 10-minute conversation? I want to hear about what you're doing. I just want to ask you a few questions. And I think that just trying to educate yourself that way is really, really helpful. And I think that that's definitely a way to get your foot in the door. Like, people reach out to me all the time, and I'm always happy to take a quick phone call and like answer any questions that anybody has, because you never know, who those people are at the other end of the line. And that just is something that I have a core, that's one of my core values, is always to be kind. Like, as an agent, treat the assistants in our building the same exact way as I would a senior agent, because I was in that position once too. And people in the mailroom, same thing. So yeah, the internet.
There's a fearlessness to what you're talking about, that one of the things you will learn when you go to get an internship, when you go to get a job, is you'll hear no, no, no. And really all it is not now. And I talk about being a polite pest. And if you can just get a crack in the door, wherever it might be, and then maybe a month later you write back to somebody and say, I wrote to you. If you write to somebody 6 months in a row, sooner or later they're gonna notice. They may not respond the first 5 times, but after a while they will. So the persistence is really important in getting that foot in the door.
I have to tell you a funny story, and it's the persistence. So my manager was like, hey, we have a new song coming out on Friday. We have one coming out on Friday too. I forgot. And he's like, DM, and this song is like, we finally have like a DJ club, it's like a darker club record. So he's like, yeah, DM the bigger DJs, the extended version. And so like Martinez Brothers, Steve Aoki, I have these like, my DMs that has like 5 messages that they've never read. But I'm like, one day they'll read it and be like, when we blow up, they're gonna be like, oh shit, they try to DM me their song every single that comes out, and like, they didn't get it. But I'm like, my ego was like, I'm still gonna DM them the link to my song. They might not see it till next year, but they're gonna see like 10 messages from me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. But it is persistence. It's putting your ego down. It's doing what you can to connect with people. But one thing that we've learned is like being kind, and even if we DJ at any club or venue, I'm talking to the security person. I am friends with the sound people, even if they're mean to me. Like, 'cause sound people sometimes can be mean. But I can get it because like it's a lot of pressure, but it's all about keeping those relationships. And even with like different agencies and like marketing people and whoever, like we're all about building long-term relationships. And one thing I'm just gonna say too is that sometimes you always wanna work for money, right? But there's certain opportunities that are less money that will get your foot in the door. And once you get in the door, the bigger opportunity will happen. So sometimes you do have to sacrifice, you have to sacrifice a smaller amount of money to get the credibility, and once you're in with the credibility, it'll all grow from there.
And another piece of advice that I have is give yourself grace to pivot. I know you all are like just gonna get out of college, and some of you may not know what part of the music industry you want to be in, so you may try something, but give yourself grace to be able to try something else if you don't like it or if it doesn't work out. So
Because when we walked in here, I was like, there's like a couple of the next biggest stars in here. I know it. I feel it. In this room. And I'm so excited to say that I was on the panel when so-and-so blew up. We're manifesting for somebody. You know who I'm talking about. If you feel it, that's what I'm talking about you. So.
That's a great point. I can't tell you how many times in my career I went down, and this is a dead end. No, this is not where I want to be. And you just back up and you go down another road. You just have to be willing to try and realize you made a mistake, but you've learned something from what you did. What have you learned that's valuable for these students to know right now?
This is very singer-songwriter of me, but the emotional aspect, I think, is just as important as keeping your nose to the grindstone. Something that's been helping me a lot these past few months is imperfect action is far better than perfect inaction. And I think a lot of the times, I feel like everybody in this room wants to be great. They want to be the best. They want to be the greatest at what they're doing. I mean, that's an aspiration that many people have. And sometimes you get faced with that fear of failure, fear of starting in the first place. I myself, again, have struggled with that a lot because songwriting, that's scary as hell. Like, you're getting in this room and you're just like, maybe I just don't want to do this because I'm scared of being bad. I'm scared of being bad in front of this person that's really important. I'm scared of being bad and my label doubting me, my management doubting me, all of these questions. But the thing is you got to start. Like, the only way to get better is to freaking do it and be bad. Like, that's the only answer to anything. And I think coming out of college, like, this is my last quarter here. I'm about to, like, actually face the real world, like, put on my big girl pants. And it's scary as hell. It's scary as hell to know that I don't have the schedule of college to fall back on. I don't have the safety, that security net of going like, at least I have class tomorrow if the session went bad. But like, the only thing you can do is do it. You either do it or do it scared. Those are the only two options, really, if that's what you want. So yeah, that's my advice.
Great, thank you. Just real quickly, and then I'd like people to start lining up to ask questions. One thing that's happened in the last 5 years is the industry has been changing at lightning speed. 5 years ago, nobody was talking about TikTok. Nobody was talking about social influencers. What would you recommend to the students that you're doing to stay not just on top of what's going on, but to understand what's coming?
You should pay some attention to anything which is able to create value. Anything that you are able to do to create value for others, there'll be money in it. It's one of my granddad's last things that he said before he passed away. He's like, try to do something which is easy for you and is hard for others. Mm-hmm. And I can give you a great example of that. I studied engineering, I did commerce, sales and marketing, I did financial planning, and I still don't quite know what I want to do when I grow up. But apparently what I'm doing is valuable to others. So as it's valuable, I keep getting requests for my time to do record label things or publishing or events or whatever. I just wanted to give a little bit of advice that occurred to me before is you only get one chance to make a first impression. And when you meet with somebody, if I said to you, who did you see on the weekend just gone? And you might go, oh, I saw my friend. Like, what did you talk about? You might remember the topics, but you won't quite remember exactly what everything was said. You won't ever remember everything that's ever said, whether it's here or anything else, but you'll remember the feeling that you had. You'll remember the feeling that you had. So what feeling do you want to give the other person so that when you hit them up, to Lauren's point, the next day or in a week, when they see your name come up, they go, oh, yeah, hey, how's it going? As opposed to, oh, not this guy again, sort of thing. So that's a really important one that's helped me a lot to sort of think, I don't need to get buried into detail. I just need to make sure that that person is left with a good impression. That was really helpful. Another one for me is I'm trying to push everything I do through 4 things, which is show up on time, do what you say you'll do, finish what you start, and say please and thank you about being polite. And if you run your life through those 4 things, then you're going to be referable. They're Dan Sullivan's referability habits, and they're really great things to sort of slide what you do through, because people will think of you when they need you for something that you can potentially add value to. It's hard to get too micro, per your question. Crypto is interesting, NFT is interesting, new ways of people experiencing events. I think experiential is more interesting than sort of sitting at home. I think everyone's done with sitting at home. So I don't know. I think that just try to keep abreast of what's going on, to try to think of ways that you can find something that's easy for you and is hard for others that you can create value with.
That's great. Thank you. Lauren? You're so busy doing your job. How do you not get hit by like a truck when some new trend comes along?
Well, a huge part of my job is music discovery, and I think over the last few years it's become even more crazy with like TikTok and all these different streaming platforms and all these different overnight sensations, and it's, I think the challenge is figuring out who the unicorns are, is what I call them, versus who's a flash in the pan or like a one-hit wonder, and like who's a career artist. And so what we do internally is we sit down, the agents who specialize in hip-hop and R&B, that's what I specialize in. We all sit down together every week and we discuss, you know, new artists and new projects that are coming out, and like we have real intelligent conversations and we debate, and we, you know, like that's kind of how I stay current and up to date on music itself, and it's my favorite meeting of the week. We have a blast in there. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to remind you to ask questions. This is an opportunity for you to make a first impression on people who are in the industry, so that when you contact them, they may hire you. So don't be shy, because being shy will get you nowhere in this.
Yeah, sometimes interns have actually done a whole internship, and then 2 years later we get hit up saying, hey, can you give me a reference for this person who interned for you? And I'm like, I don't remember them at all. I don't know them. They never made any effort to say hello to me even. So anybody who tries to make an impression or jumps out is really helpful.
Well, that seemed to work. So please say your name and address your question to whoever it's for.
My name is Mohammed. I'm a third-year student, first-year transfer. Outside of UCLA, I'm a part-time A&R consultant at UMPG, and so this is for the executives on the panel. How do you spot talent, or the person who's gonna have a career, the person who's gonna be different, especially in this age of TikTok and everyone just popping up every day? How do you differentiate?
Something that I look for is when I'm listening to music, do they sound like anyone else? I always am attracted to signing people who don't sound like anyone else or remind me of anything. So just having a unique voice or a unique sound is something big for me. And then, like I said, we do a weekly meeting where we all bring ideas to the table and we play music in the room, and it's an open dialogue and kind of like a safe space to share how we feel about the music. That's what I do.
I'd say, what does the brand look like? Because it's not as much about the music these days as much as it is about everything else that's pushing and promoting the music. So I'd like to sort of see a whole mood board of everything. I don't necessarily care only about any one of these things, but all of them are important. What's the Instagram, SoundCloud, Facebook followers, Spotify monthly listens are interesting, but the Spotify actual followers is super interesting. But it's weighted. It's weighted along with everything that Lauren just said. I like to sort of see what statistics are happening across Instagram. What's the engagement like? It's amazing to have big numbers, but they can be purchased. The engagement can't be as much. So I try to take a big swathe across the whole thing. What happens if I go to, this is an interesting one for you, if I go to 3 of your socials and it's not the same profile photo, I'm really worried.
Oh,
Great.
shoot. I think we have a different profile photo.
Got to get on it and tell me.
Thank you. Good, very good question.
My name is Eric Sosa. I actually work with True Love and Declassified. First off, thank you guys so much for your time here. It's been really awesome for me to speak. My question is, what does, as agents, as promoters, and especially as artists, what does the path look like for a manager to help their
I mean, for us, things changed when we got an agent. When we signed with WME, I would say.
Yeah, but I think the big part though is I remember when Johnny, our manager, first started managing us, he would always be like, there would be certain gigs that we wanted to do, and he's like, no, I'm gonna get you guys into like the credible electronic world. You can't do this, and I didn't understand it.
And he was preparing us for an agent.
Yes, I think it's about being strategic and seeing like, and it's with anything in any business, what is your like long-term goal? And then you like work backwards. You can start making sure that you're going in the right pathway. So I think that's what it is. And I think that knowing that, like, we always make plans, we make quarterly plans and say, all right, this is our year plan, but what are we gonna focus on this quarter? What are we gonna focus on next quarter? And sometimes not all the plans go through, but at least you have a plan for like what that extra goal is, because everyone has their own direction.
I have something called Padman's 7 Ps. Prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance.
Thank you.
No, to their point though, every single artist that we sit down with and end up signing, we do an entire plan where we're like, what's the end goal? Where is the vision and the landscape for them, and how do we get there? And we really plan it all out. And like they said, it's like, maybe not all of it goes as planned, but we know where we want to get to. And then we do yearly plans. It literally exactly what they just said. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lev Kotia. I'm super interested in artist development and marketing. Thank you all for being here. It's really cool to hear what you guys have to say. My question has to do with getting paid what you're worth. I know you talked about it a little bit, but as also an artist, not just an artist, but also someone who's promoting artists and working with artists, how do you make sure that you're getting paid what you're worth at gigs when the industry is super saturated with people who are willing to do more for less?
I can answer that. I think that it's also, you have to do less to even grow your value, to create a resume. And you have to learn. 'Cause I do see a lot of people that, even though you don't have a worth if you haven't worked to create a worth. And there's a lot of years that we did things. I mean, even to this day, there's things that are big checks and there's things that's credibility. That are
Get us into the room.
That
and
gets
give
us into the room where we're
association.
like doing a support set that like isn't paid the best, or a festival that's not paid the best, but we know that's going to take us to another level of credibility. So it's like being mindful of knowing that you also still have the groundwork to even create what that value is. And then once you actually grow your value and understand your value, know when to like teeter left and teeter right. There's some things where like it's not worth taking less money for it. And there's some things where it might be an artist or an opportunity that's gonna either like help you like in a room, meet people, or
Association
or like gain knowledge.
Great answer. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Olivia. Oh, is that too loud? So sorry.
No.
Don't apologize. Be unapologetic. You got it.
I'm not sorry. My name is Olivia Filson, and I'm more interested in the executive side. You mentioned forming relationships with people. I found in the music industry a lot of people tend to be ingenuine. How to create those relationships that go past superficiality and really form a connection and not just seem like you're bugging them. Like, how are you? Like, what do you do?
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Not you guys.
No. I know. I would say just, I mean, if you were to come to me, I would say just ask thoughtful questions and have a great attitude. You're never going to be able to control, how others act towards you, but it's more of just what we've all been saying. It's being persistent. You're going to get more no's than you get yeses. But it's about those yeses that open the doors. You just have to be able to take rejection. It's an industry where everyone needs to have, it's hard to say, but everybody should have thick skin in order, because you're going to get rejected more than you're going to get a yes.
Find commonality.
That's great.
Find commonality with another person. For example, Lauren here plays tennis. I played tennis yesterday for 5 hours. I'm wildly interested in Lauren's tennis. So that will be something that I would actually be genuinely interested in asking her. And that's not being disingenuous. Does that make sense? So things like that persistence will work, being polite will work, doing what you say will work, following up, all those kinds of things, showing up on time, respecting someone's time, those kinds of things, I guess. And to Lauren's point again, you can't control whether a person's going to be the way they are. You just do the best you can to control you, because that's probably the only thing you can control is your own reaction.
Don't take things personally, just in life.
Yeah.
That's like it changed the game. I used to be very like introverted, super shy. I thought everybody was against me. Yeah, we used to be so shy.
Oh, really?
We just got this confidence like last year. I'm serious. I'm for real. And but it's because I learned not to take things personally, and it goes a long way for yourself.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maya Romo. I'm a freshman and I'm currently undeclared. My first question is, anyone hiring assistants? You guys need. But my second, I know a major or a minor in music can provide a lot of education and connections within the industry. So is a music degree imperative to finding success as soon as possible?
No.
No, I don't have one.
No.
I wish that I kind of had done something like that. I wish I had learned piano. I had no idea. I did engineering and finance and business. I did a bunch of other things. If I had known where I was going to end up, I wouldn't have done the finance one for sure.
The only thing I'll say is that if you have a specific passion, like if you want to be an audio engineer, we've got a great course in our studio here. If you're thinking of a career in music and the law, we've got 2 great professors here who are practicing music industry attorneys. So if there's a specific area that you think you want to go into, that you know you want to go into, we have 2 songwriting classes. You know, those are the kinds of things you would be doing. But if you're just generally interested in the music industry, just be real smart and get a good education.
I did sports management, so nothing to do with music. But I wish I had a music program at my school. I would have done it. I just didn't have access to it.
But your sports management degree would have taught you how to think sequentially and overcome problems and be strategic and all those kinds of things, which is really
like a business degree.
What a business actually is, really. So yeah, find something out of the business course that it's going to help more than it hinders. If someone comes to me with a photography degree, it's not going to be the same as a music industry degree. There's going to be less to explain is probably what an employer is going to think. So just find something in that huge, wide net of things that you can be done and something that speaks to you.
I will say, as a UCLA student, you don't have to be in the school as like the major in order to take the classes, in order to get some of the experience. One of the best classes that I've ever taken at UCLA was music and law, and I'm not a music industry major, I'm a musical theater major. So like you can still reach into other realms and like learn, take what you will, take what resonates, and then, go on your way.
And as you're undeclared, we have a new program starting next year for the music industry major. So you can think of that as well.
Hi guys, thank you so much for coming in the first place. It means a lot that you share your experience with us. My name is Pedro. I'm a 4th year, worked in a bunch of management companies, but I'm interested in learning more about agencies actually. So my question goes out to Lauren. I wanted to know how long did it take you, like, in the stages of like building a team, and you sort of mailroom to flow to assistant to agent. How was that journey?
Yeah, I think it's very situational. Personally, my journey was I made it out of the mailroom in about a month, and then at WME they had something called Music Central, which is like ticket counts, and you're learning about all the different agents, and you're just like educating yourself on the company. And I was there for about 3 months, and then I didn't even float. I got hired straight onto a desk, which I stayed on for 6 months, and then I started working with an agent named Brent Smith, who I still work with to this day, and I worked with him. I was his assistant for like 2 more years. I got promoted within 3 years to agent. I would say like the average is 3 is very fast, but 5 is like normal. I think 3 to 5 years.
Cool, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Hi, thank you all for coming. My name is Makeda. I'm a second-year theater major. Hi, you all are so inspiring to me, and the energy I feel off of all of you is like this assuredness of like who you are. Obviously, we're human, so like you're gonna have moments like what's happening, but like you all overall just seem very confident in who you are and like what you're doing. I notice a lot in my life. I'm young, so I have to be compassionate towards myself. But I feel like if I have a good analogy to explain this, so like, stay with me. If we're playing like double dutch, I feel like I'm like, like, okay, I hop in now, or I don't hop in now. This is like, in terms of like my life, my dreams. I feel like my dreams change every day. Oh my gosh, I want to do this, or oh my gosh, I hear you guys, I'm like, yo, maybe I want to be a manager. Who knows, you know what I mean? Or like, maybe I want to be a performer, whatever. I'm literally a theater major, maybe I want to be a performer. I don't know what I'm talking about. But, I just feel, I guess my question is kind of a long-winded question, but like, how do you just, it's gonna sound wow, but like, how do you trust yourself to just hop in the double dutch game, start jumping, and then maybe I want to answer, do you know?
It's okay. I think that you just have to like hop in. Honestly,
Then you know, like when you double dutch, you hop in, like the rope gets
it's
caught in
like
your foot.
you the double dutch be like,
And then it gets caught in
And it
your
gets
foot.
caught
You're
in
like,
your
all
foot.
right, let me step out and hop in again. So I think that the big part is like trying these new things that you want to try, especially right now, like while you're young, still in college. Like hop in. If you don't like it, hop out. You know, just keep hopping in.
but also too, don't if you come across a challenge, don't measure that to like you not liking it, because challenges and not liking it are two different things. I think a lot of times when we fail at something, it can be discouraging. But I think that giving yourself grace, if you love it so much and you're passionate about it, recognize it as a challenge. And just say, this is just a challenge. I love this so much, I'm gonna figure this out. And that's where emotional intelligence, we didn't go to college, but something that we learned at a very young age was emotional intelligence and problem solving. And so kind of like being able to zoom out and analyze your emotions when a challenge comes your way, and knowing how to handle it with grace. And we all have emotions, but understanding, feel it, and move on.
Because sometimes challenges can bring you to a breaking point to the next good level.
Anytime
what
we
you're
have
doing.
a challenge, like, I get excited for life. I'm like, something big is about to pop off, because I'm going through this crazy roller coaster. The biggest challenge of my life is so difficult, it's so hard, and then I have a choice to either give up or I have a choice to learn from it. I feel like it's a secret to our life, is that a huge challenge comes, and I think that the universe is like, learn this, it's a lesson, go through it, and then you'll make it to the next level. It's like Mario, like playing like the game, the next level. And so just knowing how to recognize it.
Great answer.
I also think you don't have to know everything right now. Like, you don't have to choose and stick to it right now. Like, even right as a singer, I don't know if I'm going to stay a singer forever. Like, I like theater. What if I'm an actress? Like, all those types of things. Like, you don't have to decide on it right now. And I think that taking a lot of that pressure off of just like making this permanent, making this final, will help you so much with just treating everything as a learning opportunity and just treating everything like entering any agreement, any experience with open arms, and much less about like, okay, so this has to be it. Like, just try. It's easier said than done, but when you take that pressure off of trying to make this like forever, then you're gonna find your forever faster, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Jefferson, do we have time for more questions? Guys, you have time for a few more? Good, okay.
I'm chilling. I'm so inspired right now.
You're hot. You're on fire and inspired.
Hello, my name is Kylan. I am a second-year student here at UCLA. I'm a photographer, but I also want to like go into like advertising and marketing within the music industry as well as management. And this is a question for all of you, because I feel like it applies for both like people like that are executives, but also like artists. When you're working with the artist, how do you like build trust with them?
Be genuine, be interested. Art before chart is something I think of. I think it's always about the art, more over than other elements. I say I have a very strong 49% of the vote. So I'm always down to get outvoted because I don't have to stand behind the record for the rest of my life. You do. So I think that trying to create rapport comes from all the things we were talking about before, being having something in common and also having the artist respect you. I was an artist. I produced music, still do to this day. Therefore, I can listen to any of your music and I could say, why don't you try take the MIDI of that and play a different thing through it and put it at a higher octave and have a sidechain high string in the drop, and they'll know exactly how to make the drops sound better instead of an A&R to say, make it sound bigger, which just pisses off an artist more than anything, I think. So have an ability to speak to them in their language.
Also just acting with empathy, like treating everybody like humans, like you're human first before you're your job, so.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Desmond Wong. I'm a second-year music history and industry major, but I do want to perform. That is like my big goal. I guess this question is catered more towards the artist. The idea of marketability was touched on a little bit earlier. Have you? I guess the question is, how has there ever been moments where you feel like marketability is kind of getting in the way of what you really want to do, and like, I guess, staying true to your core? And so, how do you find that balance between I want to do something I want to do, but I also want to like make money? So,
I can relate to that a lot. I started out literally with TikTok. Like that's how I got my following, how I got like anybody listening to my music. So it's really difficult to try and take a step back from that and make that distinction between art and what's going on the internet, It feels so closely intertwined. It feels like they're the same thing nowadays. But honestly, you have to find what makes you different, what makes you believe in what you're doing, what makes you passionate. And sometimes that's not going to be making a TikTok video about your song, and on days where it is, that's great. But you have to respect the fact that TikTok, social media, these are tools. You use them, they do not use you. As much as it's true that you should follow trends sometimes, you can hop on something if you have a great idea for it, but the things that stand out, like you were saying, like what's an artist that's gonna have a long career path, not just a flash in the pan, is somebody who's not following those trends all the time. It's somebody who's making those trends. It's somebody who's trying to do something unique that can't be replicated, that can only be by you. And I think that's, when you focus on that, it doesn't matter whether that avenue is social media, whether that avenue is marketability at your forefront. If you have that foundation, that you are being driven by what you can provide and only you can provide, you're gonna find an avenue to do that.
And one thing I always say, we say this, we're like, is there another Coco and Breezy? We do that test every 3 months. No, for real. We say that, we're like, and does the dance world need a Coco and Breezy? And we say that, and it's the music, it's the style, it's the energy, it's the, it's all that. So we test ourselves and we say that all the time because we're like, okay, we're in this space, and how do we, if you look at the dance music world, there's a lot of people that look alike, and a lot of them make the same music, they're using the same template. And so for us, we're like, okay, so now we're bringing some soul, we're bringing grooves. Like when people go to our shows, they're not fist pumping, they're grooving. But we're playing at EDC when people are fist pumping. But we're bringing this new energy. And at first I was like shy about it, but I was like, you know what? Even like the other day, by accident, we did a whole Soulful House set. The second to last song, we accidentally dropped Genuine Pony. It was an accident. And on accident. It was like an acapella. But then you know what? We played it off.
I bet
people
went
crazy.
People went absolutely crushed.
You know what's crazy?
Yeah.
It went crazy. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna let this play. We let it play for 30 seconds, and then we found I think we like looped 32 bars of like, regular classic 4 on the floor, brought that in, and then like looped the acapella, and it was like, oh shit. But literally it was so left field. I'm like, we just got done doing a whole Soulful House tribal set, and this like R&B vocal comes in. So if you ever mess up, no one knows you messed up. Play it off.
And real quick on the marketing side of things, sometimes you want to grow slower so that you can always be yourself. Because like Coco and I, we know exactly what we can do to like go viral, but we always stay true to ourselves. Because what happens is a lot of times people know what to post on TikTok or Instagram, and they blow up from that.
And then when they become an artist, it's hard for them, for their fans and their audience to actually know who they truly are. And I think we've never followed trends. We've always kind of just been ourselves. And it's been a slower burn, but it's more longevity because now we'll never do anything that isn't us. We've been very authentic. And
one more thing, TikTok videos and numbers do not equal to ticket sales. So let's remember that. And it also doesn't it does not always equal up to streams. So remember, like, TikTok is a tool, like she said, but remember that if you want to be an artist and not just like a social media singer, which is fine, but if you want to eventually like start touring, start building your brand as well and not only follow those trends so you can sell tickets.
I will also say really fast, agree with everything you were saying. Those TikTok views and those TikTok like shares, likes, all those types of things do not equal them getting to know you as well. Personality is such a huge component of like connecting. It's acting with empathy. Like trying to get to know somebody is not like, it's not the same thing as just viewing the video and like scrolling by. So try to really like reach out with the expectation that you want them to get to know you, that you have something to say and something that if it resonates with them, they'll stick around and they'll listen and they'll get to know who you are. And I think that's much more powerful if you get 100 views of people who actually care about what you're saying and who you are than 100 million views of people just swiping right by you.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for speaking. My name's Aiden Chan, I'm a junior, and I'm actually a bio major. So I've been recently, I've always loved music, but I never saw it as like a career I could pursue, and I've been like leaning more towards it. I was wondering if you had recommendations for taking like a first step into the music industry.
Everybody looks at
You're the OG on the stage.
The OG.
What part of the music industry do you think you'd want to be in?
I'm not really sure yet, but I've been getting into songwriting.
Okay. So
Well,
write songs. That's how you get in.
Just use whatever resources are available to you. Like you have a piano in Schoenberg that you can rent out and voice memo on your phone, you know? Like you can start off with whatever you have, you can get your hands on until you can, build up.
An interesting theory that was once told me was 3 friends in Australia, a photographer, a model, and a makeup artist, and all 3 of them didn't have anything to show for their work. The makeup person didn't have photos to show, the model didn't have photos to show, so the 3 of them got together and pooled their resources and paid for everything equal splits, and then they were able to have a body of work. The makeup person was able to say, look at the makeup that I did. The model was able to say, look at me as a model. And the photographer said, look at these amazing photos that I took. And so you're able to share. So I can imagine you writing something and then sharing it amongst people here who are trying to be a producer, but they don't know how to write. Or there's a singer who knows she or he has a great voice, but they don't know how to write a song, perhaps. So you could say, hey, I've got this song. It's just a guide vocal. Does anyone like to sing it? And then you have that, and then a producer would come along and try to put it together. So that's just one idea around songwriting. But I mean, there's so many different elements of the music industry. There's events and publishing and records. And there's also, on the other side, there's being an artist and being a support person to the artist. So it depends what you'd like to do. There's lots of different options.
I will also say, sorry, really fast. Being like here at UCLA, these students that are around you are literally exactly those people that he's talking about. My band, I'm leaving for tour this week again. My band are my classmates from UCLA sitting right over there. Yes. That's the type of connections that you'll be able to make, and literally just like your friends. Who else would you want to write with? Like your besties who know you, you know?
We keep talking about relationships all the time. Everybody here, relationships is the word that I started with, and it's the word that I've noticed sprinkled through this entire time. And network is another word, and network and relationships are in the same field. This is your network. These are your initial relationships. My relationships from my college in Australia were the ones that got me through everything else that I did from that point forward. And there's still some people in that long life cycle that I'm still hanging out with or helping each other. Literally hit up someone just yesterday in Australia who I haven't spoken to for the longest time because I have a great rapport and network with them from college. So here, this is where you start. This is how you help each other, because ultimately, in a room like this, with as many intelligent and gifted people who are here, there has to be 20% of you that are going to crush. So write a song with many of them, and then one person's going to go, and then you'll be on that. Or be friends with as many people as you can, and then as they go up, you might be able to say, hey, Lauren, do you mind helping me with this artist that I've got? Because I'm a manager and I have this artist, and she might be, oh, okay, yeah, great. I remember you from college, that type of thing. So
And
use
also,
your relationships.
Also good for you for even like, today was step one. Since you major in something else and you have the curiosity, I'm proud of you for even like coming here. No, seriously, that's beautiful. Like you're not tied into what you are already doing, and you have the curiosity about being in music, and you actually spent your energy and time to come here and learn and have the confidence to ask the question. I'm excited for you. That's major, for real.
All right.
Thank you so much.
We have time for one more question.
Hello, my name is Danny Nolenberger. I'm a first-year transfer. I'm so excited listening to you guys speak tonight. Sorry, I'm crouching a little bit. It's filled me with like joy and excitement for the future. So thank you so much for that. I feel like that's such a beautiful gift, and I'm grateful to receive it. I guess so. My question would probably be: Lauren talked a lot about like getting that lunch or getting 10 minutes on the phone, and I think one thing that I find as a personal barrier is where to start that conversation. So do you guys have any questions? Like, do you have any first questions that you like to pop out in those meetings and those conversations?
I always ask, because the question that I don't like is when someone comes up to me and they're like, what do you do? I don't like that question. It's not a good first question. Or being in LA, people are like, what do you do? What's your Instagram? Let's collab. But it's like, I don't know anything about you. So when I first meet people, I'm like, how are you feeling? Let's talk about life. Because at the end of the day, if you want something from somebody, the thing is, when you collaborate with people, or if you're even trying to connect with people, you have to even understand if you actually vibe. And the only way to understand if you vibe has nothing to do with what you do for your career. It's really about like talking about real life things. And that's how we build a lot of our relationships. Like we have a lot of friends that are like huge musicians, and we didn't even tell them that we put music out, because I don't want anything from them. But I always check up on them, and now they're seeing what we're up to, and I'd rather them ask us when they're ready to collaborate. So I think that a lot of times, especially when there's high-level people that you're looking for, there's a lot of people asking things from them. But it goes a long way if you're like, hey, if it's a holiday, hey, I'm just checking up on you. How are you feeling today? How's your family? And genuinely asking those questions, and then you'll really become on the back of someone's mind.
And also, I have another example. Doing little small genuine things, like we did a show where we supported Diplo, and I was like, what can I do to connect with him? So I watched one of his interviews, and he was talking about how he had anxiety and he had this wall up. So I found my favorite book, me and Breezy's favorite book. It's about spirituality and life, and we wrote him a little handwritten note in the book and gave it to his tour manager. And then now I have his number and we text all the time. But when we saw him last in New York, somebody tried to reintroduce us, and he was like, they gave me a book. And I read it, and then we exchanged numbers, and now we're homies. He said that we're his favorite people now, so. It was from us giving him a book.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. The book is called, let me tell you, it's my favorite book.
It's called Something About Spiritual Growth, but it's pretty much like all the stuff that we're talking about right now. It's about like mindfulness and the way you think. We've learned a lot from this book. So we'll tell y'all in just a second. Y'all can keep going, but we'll look it up.
My favorite book that I've ever read, out of all of the years of college that I did, I could delete all of them and just read this one book over and over. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie in 1936. Every other professional and personal development thing always runs off that. So if you read that, you're going to crush. Probably don't even need it, but it'd be interesting to see if you can just do the 1%ers to get better and better. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Killer book.
The book is called Spiritual Growth, Being Your Higher Self. It's a beautiful book. I recommend it to anyone, because then you really understand how to be your higher self in any situation that you're in, especially in this industry that can like rip you to pieces.
Like when you really operate on your higher self, you learn to not take things personally. So I recommend it.
I'll just answer that question really quickly because I did have an answer on it. Find out a little bit about the person. I can't see where you are anymore, sorry. Oh, great. Find out about the person that you're asking for time with or whatever, and just ask them about something that you found out about them that's interesting that they could speak about. Most people I've learned like talking about themselves a lot. So, except me, of course, clearly. No, I'm just kidding. So I would find that if a person said to me, hey, can I pick your brain or something like that, I'm like, my schedule's packed, I don't know how I'm going to do that. But if someone was actively interested in something that I was actively interested in, then they would be, oh yeah, sure, okay, and I'll speak to it, at length. So try to find something that the person is, to your point about who they are, and you're asking them about them and you're having a vibe based on them. Exactly what you guys did, where you literally found that Diplo had this anxiety thing, and you're like, okay, I can speak to it. If I can't speak verbally to him, I'm going to create some connection, So try to create a connection with people based on something that who they are would be a good start.
Well, this has been an enlightening night for all of us, and we really need to give these people a standing ovation. So please, thank you so much for being here at UCLA.
Can we give our host, David Leaf, also a standing ovation for his
Oh, thank you.